Watchers, Justice Watchers, before we begin, I want to make this absolutely clear. The following broadcast contains public domain courtroom footage, commentary, and legal analysis. This content is presented under the fair use doctrine as defined by 17 USC 107 and is protected by multiple Supreme Court rulings, which you see below. This stream is transformative, educational, and journalistic in nature. It includes original commentary, trial breakdowns, legal interpretation, and critical analysis, not raw redistribution. We do not claim ownership over any public domain footage, and all use is strictly within legal bounds. If you're watching this content, you're engaging in a protected, transformative experience, grounded in law, never in speculation. And if anyone has a problem with that, take it up with Campbell, Brady, Miranda, and Irvin. Remember, guys, justice always works better when we watch. So keep watching. See you in the courtroom.
All rise, court's in session. Facts on deck. Diddy in the hot seat. Facts on the check. From the yacht to the cell block. Fame to fight. Now it's Rico on the record. Coral light. Bad boy passed, but this ain't no hit. 12P is in the box. Gotta answer for it. Media flashing. Lawyers pressing. We breaking it down. This trial's a lesson. Justice is a process. No spin, just balls. Peeling back the stories, exposing the scars. Cross exams tight like a closing line. Diddy on trial, and we're pressing for time. From whispers to wiretaps, cash to the plea. We follow the facts, not celebrity. No settle, no silence, no PR shield. Just truth in the room and the verdict revealed.
All right, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the Diddy recap series that we're doing here, where I'm going to bring you inside the courtroom. Unfortunately, today's day 2 got a little delayed, as you may have seen in the community post that I posted up this morning, because I'm not actually filming this till now. My little one, my 8-month-old, had a very serious surgery about a week ago. It's kind of contributed to all the other chaos that's going on around here. And there were some complications. We had to go down to Washington, D.C., to the Children's Hospital down there. Luckily, everything is good. All is well. He's resting well. We're back. But it's been a hectic 24 to 48 hours. So bear with me. I appreciate everybody's understanding. I started the streams late, all that. But I also didn't get a chance to get the Diddy recap day 2 in. I've now got to do day 3. And of course, we're on day 4 right now today. So I've got a lot to catch up on. So we're going to get through day 2 here. I'm going to bring you in because this is an exciting day, because we finish up with the uh, sex worker that was on the stand. And then we get to one of the key main witnesses, a vital witness for the prosecution, their star, Cassie Ventura, and we get into her direct examination. We don't get into any of the cross examination, the fireworks that are going to happen with that. We know it's going to be explosive, but we're going to bring it to you. And what I'm doing is I'm collecting all media reports from across the country, getting viable options, and then I compile them into a report. It takes a little bit of time, but I do that, and then I'm going to read this report to you so that you can experience it for yourself and hear what's going on. Now, this is very important. If you're not a member, if you're not an official Justice Watcher, the best time to do that is right now, because for $4.99 a month, and there's several other levels, but right now I'm offering it at all levels of membership. You get access to not just exclusive case backgrounds, not just exclusive case summaries, not just exclusive uh, daily pulses where we look into the social media and the media impact the cases are having. Those are all going to get released to you as well. but you're also going to be getting these Diddy recap, exclusive Diddy recap documents. If you're not a member, you're going to have to rely on watching this live and listening to me read it to you. If you're a member, as soon as this video drops, at the end of the video, you will get access to the entire report. And it's a very detailed report. It's going to have hyperlinks to all the articles that I used in compiling the report. It's going to be almost, think of it as your little case map, your little media map to the Diddy trial, where you can go in and read all the things I read and see if your take is the same as mine. And we're going to be continuing to build out what we're going to do with the memberships as far as doing members only lives and things of that nature and getting more interactive. So it's a great time to get a membership in place so that you can have an opportunity to get deeper into the cases and get a deeper dive. There's also going to be, which I'm finalizing right now, the first ever case book that's going to be released. It'll be released to members only. Again, all levels of membership will get this case book. The first one I've done this on is the Shore trial. So I'm finalizing that right now, and that's an exclusive take. You get to go right inside the mind of justice and listen to how my take on the witnesses, the testimony, and I break it down. Basically, these are reports that I used and created and compiled, helping me throughout the case as I was watching it and building out my testimony descriptions and doing all of my analysis. And I'm putting this together in a case book for you so you can read it and go deep in and tell me you get it, the full thought process on how I felt about the case. And well, there wasn't a verdict, it was a mistrial. Anyways, all that's coming. So with that out of the way, I also want to thank all of our members, all of our official justice watchers. I believe this morning when I looked, 24 of you out there. Thank you so much. You're the lifeblood of what keeps this thing going. Believe it or not, YouTube, it's a very tough racket to be in this space. So those of you that are supporting at whatever level of support you can do, it's very much thankful, because believe it or not, there are a lot of overhead expenses with this. So this isn't a money-making venture. This is a passion project. This is something that I want to do and want to be able to show people the justice process and do what my dad did for so many people and educate them on how the justice process works. Justice is a process. As we've said, it's not an outcome. It's about the process. And the more understanding you gain, the more equipped and better you are when you come in contact, whether that's through a speeding ticket or it's through a relative, or maybe somewhere, God forbid, one of you finds yourselves facing a serious charge or something. You're going to be equipped to know exactly what's coming and exactly what you need to do. So that's what we're trying to do here. That's the mission and the goal here. And I appreciate all of you who are supporting it. Thank you so much. So with that said, let's jump right into the excitement of day two of the Diddy trial. So this is a very like I said, a very big day for the trial. So we're going to jump into it. Let's jump into our courtroom here, and we will get back up the witness that's on the stand right now, which is Daniel DJ Phillip. So let's get him on the stand. There he is. And now we're going to jump into this. So the second day of the United States versus Sean Diddy Combs opened Tuesday with the continuation of testimony from a male escort who participated in so-called Freakoff sex sessions involving Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson cross-examined the witness, Daniel DJ Phillip, aiming to cast Ventura as a willing participant. Phillip acknowledged that Ventura was the one who paid him for their encounters and that she was not intoxicated during the session in question. However, when pressed by Donaldson on whether Ventura was in complete control of everything she did, Phillip resisted. I cannot say that, he testified. This response undercut the defense's suggestion of total consent, implying there were factors influencing Ventura beyond her own will. And I'll kind of use this as an opportunity here to venture off into discussing why that's important, because that is important, because one of the biggest things in the RICO case is coercion and the factor of coercion. And Cassie Ventura, it's alleged, was being trafficked. And that she was being put into these situations and coerced into these situations. And coercion comes in many forms. It can come by providing her with drugs, it can come by providing her with pressure. And one of the big factors is that she was and wasn't and was the entire length of their relationship an employee of Mr. Combs, otherwise aka known as Diddy. That is a tremendously huge factor. So him saying this here, where he did not feel that she was completely consenting to this, is an important thing that they want the jury to become familiar with, and they want the jury to be get that feeling that, especially with her upcoming testimony, that she was not completely able to say no. And if they believe that, that is a huge step in getting to where the prosecution needs to get to in their case. Meanwhile, U.S. District Judge Aaron Subramanian addressed procedural issues before the next witness took the stand. One key discussion involved extremely graphic video evidence of a freak-off that prosecutors intend to show the jury. Recognizing the sensitive nature of the footage, Judge Subramanian approved a plan to shield the gallery and press from seeing or hearing it live. Jurors will watch the video on individual headsets, ensuring the explicit content remains private in the courtroom. The judge also indicated that he is inclined to grant media access to the videos afterward, balancing privacy concerns with the public's right to know, and gave both sides an extra day to weigh in on that decision. Another early motion focused on Cassie Ventura's condition as she prepared to testify. Ventura is in the late stages of pregnancy, about 8.5 months along, and Combs' attorney worried her visible pregnancy might elicit undue sympathy from jurors. Defense lawyer Mark Agnifilo requested that Ventura be seated on the witness stand before the jury enters, so jurors wouldn't see her walking in with her pregnancy on full display. Pregnancy is beautiful and wonderful, Agnifilo argued. It is also a source of potential sympathy. Pe- the judge considered the request, although details of his ruling weren't explicitly reported. The concern underscored the defense's sensitivity to optics as the day's pivotal testimony approached. Cassie Ventura takes the stand, a controlled life. So let's get up here. You're going to get to see Miss Ventura as she takes the stand as she is getting sworn in. Late in the morning, Cassie Ventura, the prosecution's star witness and Combs' former long-term girlfriend, took the stand, marking the first time she and Combs had seen each other in person since their 2018 breakup. Ventura, 38, visibly pregnant, appeared stoic as she entered the courtroom. Observers noted that Combs turned and stared intently at her arrival, while Cassie avoided eye contact with him. Instead, Combs watched the jury closely once she began speaking. Dressed in a conservative ensemble and speaking softly, Ventura began by describing the dynamics of her decade-long relationship with the music mogul. He controlled a lot of my life, she testified plainly, outlining how Combs exerted influence over nearly every aspect of her world, from her career to her personal freedoms. Ventura recounted how their relationship started when she was an aspiring singer, just 19 years old, freshly signed to Combs' Bad Boy record label. Combs was 17 years her senior, and early on he introduced her to sexual voyeurism, which she said normalizing group sexual activities that would later be dubbed Freakoffs. She characterized herself at that time as naive and a total people pleaser, eager to keep Combs happy. At Combs' behest, Ventura agreed to participate in elaborate sexual encounters involving other people, even though the concept unsettled her. Prosecutors alleged these freak-off sessions were not truly consensual, but rather orchestrated by Combs as part of a pattern of coercion and control. On the stand, Ventura confirmed the basic setup. The freak-offs involved hiring a male sex worker, setting up a carefully planned encounter, and performing sexual acts while Combs watched. I felt a lot of nervousness and confusion, she said, of these early experiences, emphasizing that she went along with the arrangements largely because she feared disappointing or angering Combs if she refused. Graphic freak-off testimony, sex, baby oil, and degradation. Under direct examination by prosecutors, Ventura gave explicit, often disturbing details about what the freak-offs entailed. Many of those details matched and added context to the testimony jurors heard on day one from the male escort who participated. Ventura described the very first freak-off session. It took place at one of Combs' Los Angeles homes when she was 22 years old. Combs had hired a male escort to dance for her and then to have sex with her while Combs looked on. At Combs' urging, Ventura said she took ecstasy and drank alcohol beforehand and even donned a masquerade mask. Combs' idea to add disguise and theatrics to the encounter. He brought up voyeurism. I agreed because I wanted to make him happy, Ventura told the jury. According to Ventura, Combs was not just a passive observer, but an active director of these encounters. He would arrange the scene, sometimes even dictating roles. Phillips testified that Combs once made them role play meeting as strangers at an airport. And that was in the Phillips testimony, is the DJ Phillips, the previous individual who was testifying. And he would pleasure himself while watching. On at least one occasion, Ventura said Combs became irate when the participants weren't using enough baby oil, halting the session to reprimand them until they slathered more on. Investigators later seized nearly 1,000 bottles of baby oil while searching Combs' properties, a figure Combs' attorneys dispute, but one that illustrates how integral this detail was to the alleged pattern. Ventura testified that Combs had an intense fixation on baby oil during these sex parties. He insisted she always be glistening, even going so far as to produce a kiddie pool filled with baby oil during one session at a hotel into which she was expected to climb while naked. The jury also heard about other supplies kept on hand for Freakoff, such as Astroglide lubricant and piles of condoms. These gatherings weren't rare occurrences, Ventura said, but rather a weekly ordeal she endured for years. At their peak, Freakoffs were happening almost weekly, sometimes in Combs' home in Los Angeles, New York, Miami, even abroad in places like Ibiza or in upscale hotel suites. The Freakoffs became a job, Ventura explained, saying that at one point she felt her sole purpose was to recover from the last session and to brace for the next. Some sessions would last for days. The longest was 4 days or even more with breaks, she said, describing how she'd be left exhausted, recovering from the drugs, the dehydration, just trying to stay awake. She revealed she often didn't sleep for the entirety of a multi-day freak-off, as Combs provided a steady supply of ecstasy, Molly, and cocaine to keep the activities going. Perhaps the most shocking revelation came when Ventura described being subjected to acts of humiliation during these sessions. Fighting back tears, she recounted how Combs would sometimes urinate on her during sex. Sometimes Sean, he himself, or an escort would urinate on me, Ventura testified, her voice wavering. She never asked for permission and never consented to this practice, she said. In fact, Ventura emphasized how degrading it felt, calling the experience humiliating and disgusting. On at least one occasion, she even began choking because there was too much urine in her mouth. She told the court, I don't want anyone to urinate on me, Ventura said emphatically, explaining that Combs did it not super often, but often enough, that it became a distressing regular element of her life. These graphic details caused a visible reaction in the courtroom. Some jurors appeared uncomfortable, and Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, who was seated in the gallery, looked on supportively as his wife recounted these traumatic events. Fine had arrived at the courthouse earlier in the day to back Cassie, his face tense as he headed inside. Observers noted that Ventura herself became emotional in the stand, especially when describing how the Freakoffs felt like an endless obligation. At one point, she broke down saying, it became a job, highlighting how little agency she felt she had. Abuse, control, and punishment, life under Combs. Ventura's testimony went beyond the Freakoff sessions, painting a broader picture of an environment of constant control and fear. She detailed how Combs isolated her and maintained power over her daily life. For instance, she said Combs employed 24-hour security staff who would enforce his rules, including times when, as punishment, they would confiscate her phone and laptop at Combs' order. I'd be without my electronics for however long I was being punished for, Ventura explained, noting that these punishments could last days and left her cut off from friends and family. And when asked if Combs took anything else from her, she quietly replied, my self-confidence. She also testified that Combs tightly controlled her appearance and public image. He put her on strict exercise regimens in preparation for the freak-offs, effectively training her body to his liking. He had specific preferences down to the small details. Ventura said Combs insisted she keep her nails painted with French tips at all times. Some days he would want me to be really sexy and be his woman, and other days she trailed off, implying he would treat her differently depending on his mood or the role he wanted her to play. Significantly, Ventura recounted incidents of direct physical violence by Combs. Jurors were reminded of an event mentioned on day one, an assault in a Beverly Hills hotel hallway in 2012. Ventura testified that during one freak-off in Los Angeles, she attempted to slip out early, and Combs reacted in rage, chasing her down and beating her in the hallway. This assault was captured on hotel security camera footage on day one. A hotel security testified that Combs tried to bribe him afterwards to keep quiet. Ventura's account on day two confirmed the violent episode, adding that it left her battered and deeply shaken. She indicated this was not an isolated incident, and this was happened, and that throughout their relationship, Combs' temper flared into physical abuse multiple times, making her constantly afraid of what might set him off. In one startling anecdote new to day two's testimony, Ventura described the night when Combs' paranoia and violence intersected with the wider hip hop world. She said that during a Los Angeles Freakoff gathering, Combs received word that his longtime rival, Marion Suge Knight, co-founder of Death Row Records, was at a nearby diner. Combs, apparently on edge, abruptly decided to confront Knight, according to Ventura. Combs and his crew quickly packed up and hustled to go find him. Before they sped off in SUVs, Combs handed Ventura a gun, instructing her to hide the firearm in her purse. Ventura was high on psychedelic mushrooms at the time and was terrified by the sudden turn of events. I was crying. I was screaming. Don't do anything stupid, she recalled, describing her panic as she pleaded with Combs and his bodyguards not to escalate the situation. Holding the pistol for at least an hour as they drove around, she said she was terrified the gun would go off in her handbag. I had no idea why I had it in the first place. Ventura testified, saying she always felt like it was a scare tactic, an example of Combs using intimidation and even weapons to keep her in line. Ultimately, no confrontation with Knight occurred. Knight is now incarcerated on other unrelated charges. Through all these accounts, Ventura stressed that her compliance was born of fear and manipulation. She told jurors that whenever she tried to assert herself, for example, gently telling Combs she didn't want to participate in further freak-offs, he would retaliate emotionally or physically against her until she relented. She didn't want to upset him or make him angry, Ventura said, because the consequences were unpredictable and often dangerous. Her testimony depicted a young woman effectively trapped by Combs' wealth, power, and temper. Though she was a rising singer with a 10-album record deal, she released only one album during those years. The rest of her time, she suggested, was spent appeasing Combs' demands and surviving an abusive situation behind closed doors. Courtroom atmosphere, Diddy's demeanor, and jury reactions. Inside the courtroom, Sean Combs maintained a calm facade for much of day two, even as his former partner detailed humiliating and violent episodes. Reporters described Combs, 53, as largely stoic, at times staring straight ahead or scrutinizing jurors' faces as Ventura spoke, rather than looking at Ventura herself. In the morning before testimony began, Combs had appeared in good spirits. He entered the Manhattan courtroom wearing a light-colored crew neck sweater and immediately embraced members of his legal team. He then turned to the gallery and greeted family members, including his mother and relatives who have attended the trial. Throughout Cassie Ventura's afternoon testimony, however, that cordial demeanor gave way to a more subdued posture. Combs sat with a blank stare at times, as he did during opening statements on day one, occasionally whispering to his attorneys but portraying little outward emotion in reaction to Ventura's most explosive allegations. The jury of 12, along with 6 alternates, listened intently to Ventura's every word. Many jurors took notes as she spoke, especially during the most graphic descriptions. There were moments where jurors appeared visibly uneasy, understandable given the extreme nature of the testimony, but they remained focused. The courtroom was silent except for Ventura's voice and the attorneys, occasional objections and questions. Judge Subramanian had prepped the jurors for this kind of content, warning them that evidence in this case would include adult subject matter and disturbing themes. Even so, Cassie's testimony was horrifying in its detail, and observers noted a palpable tension in the room as jurors glanced at Combs, then back at Ventura, processing the dramatic power imbalance being described. In the public seating area, a small cadre of media and onlookers filled the benches. Cassie's husband, Alex Fine, sat in support, his presence a reminder of how much has changed in Ventura's life since leaving Combs. At one point during a break, Cassie locked eyes with Fine and managed a faint smile as he nodded reassuringly. Combs' family, including at least one of his sons and mother, were also present. They largely avoided looking at Ventura, instead conferring among themselves quietly. No audible reactions came from the audience during testimony. No gasps or exclamations, as the judge had sternly instructed everyone to remain composed. Still, outside the jury's view, the grim faces and occasional head shaking of those in attendance underscored how dramatic the revelations were. Key rulings on day two by Judge Subramanian. Day two also featured notable decisions by Judge Aaron Subramanian that could shape how evidence and testimony unfold in the coming days. In addition to setting the terms for the graphic video playback, the judge made a ruling on a defense request to bring up an incident from Ventura's past. Combs' attorneys signaled that they intend to question Cassie about a 2013 bar fight in Connecticut, in which she was allegedly involved, an incident that did not involve Combs at all. Lead defense attorney Tenny Garagos argued to the judge that this fight is relevant because Ventura purportedly used drugs and became violent on her own that night. The defense contends that this could challenge Ventura's narrative that she only took drugs or acted out under Combs' pressure by showing a possible example of independent reckless behavior. Prosecutors objected, calling the bar brawl irrelevant character evidence. And Judge Subramanian, after hearing both sides Tuesday morning, sided with the defense on this point. He agreed the incident could be probative of Ventura's drug use outside the relationship and thus would allow limited questioning on the topic. This means that the defense has permission to introduce the bar fight during Cassie's cross-examination, which is expected on day three, potentially as a means to impeach her credibility or mitigate her claims that Diddy coerced her into all drug activity. It's a strategic win for Combs' team, though the judge cautioned that he will very strictly control how far afield they can go with it. In another judicial decision involving media access, as noted, Judge Subramanian is inclined to make the graphic evidence available to the press in some form. He has not finalized that yet, but by flagging it in open court, he acknowledged the immense public interest in this trial. Cameras are not allowed in federal court, so the world is relying on reporters' descriptions. The judge's eventual ruling could permit reporters to view the explicit Freakoff videos outside the presence of the jury, ensuring accurate reporting on what they contain without subjecting trial attendees to the imagery in real time. Both legal teams will submit arguments on this issue by Wednesday, and a decision is expected thereafter. Lastly, Judge Subramanian continued to keep the trial on schedule. He denied any defense motions to limit Ventura's testimony on Tuesday, allowing her to narrate her experience fully. When Combs' lawyers occasionally objected to particular answers, sometimes citing hearsay or relevance, the judge mostly overruled if the testimony fell within the broader pattern of abuse alleged by the prosecution. His approach suggests he wants the jury to hear Ventura's story in detail, deferring any final judgments about credibility to them. By late afternoon, as court neared recess, Judge Subramanian gently reminded prosecutors to wrap up their direct examination, indicating a desire to begin cross-examination the next day. Outside the courtroom, public reaction to day two. Outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan, day two drew considerable media attention and public interest. Cassie Ventura's arrival in the morning became something of a spectacle itself. Dressed in a stylish camel-colored coat over a brown turtleneck dress, wearing sunglasses and boots, Cassie was all business as she headed in to face her former partner. Photographers captured the moment. The 38-year-old expectant mother walking purposely from a black SUV into the courthouse, jaw set firmly. She did not speak to the press, but her attorney, Douglas Wigdor, told reporters that the day before that Cassie was ready to testify and determined to tell her truth. Indeed, on Tuesday, Wigdor was by her side, and her calm, stoic demeanor as she entered gave a silent but powerful message. It was noted that this is the first time Cassie and Diddy have seen each other in person in roughly 7 years, adding to the drama of the day. As testimony got underway, social media platforms lit up with real-time updates from those following the case. Journalists live tweeting from the courtroom during breaks, as electronic devices aren't allowed during sessions, relayed Cassie's testimony nearly line by line, and hashtags like hashtag Diddy trial and hashtag Cassie testimony began trending on X. Many users expressed shock and outrage at the graphic allegations, particularly the revelations about urination and baby oil freak-off rituals. Short video clips from outside court, such as Cassie's arrival and Combs' entrance greeting his family, circulated on Instagram and TikTok, accumulating thousands of views. YouTube live streams from media outlets like CBS News and Law and Crime Network provided analysis as the day progressed, helping the public to understand legal significance of each development. Even some celebrities and industry figures weighed in on day two's revelations. Notably, rapper Boozy Badass posted a series of contentious tweets defending Diddy. Boozy argued that, in his view, Ventura had been a willing participant in these wild sex parties and suggested the government's case was overreach, essentially blaming the victim by implying she consented to everything. Boozy's take was met with swift backlash on social media, as many pointed out that consent under duress or fear is not true consent. Legal experts also noted that even if Ventura had initially agreed to some acts, the law can still deem Combs' overall conduct sex trafficking if he used force, fraud, or coercion to facilitate commercial sex, as the indictment charges. On the other side of the spectrum, numerous voices in the music entertainment industry community expressed support for Cassie. The hashtag I stand with Cassie and hashtag justice for Cassie popped up with users praising her courage for testifying. By evening, clips of Cassie's testimony, as paraphrased by reporters, were being discussed on news commentary shows and across talk radio, underscoring the trial's high profile nature. Outside the courthouse, a small group of fans and onlookers gathered behind the barricades, hoping to catch a glimpse of Combs or Ventura. When Diddy's convoy of black vehicles left in the afternoon, a few supporters shouted, "We love you, Diddy," but their voices were drowned out by the scrum of reporters giving live stand up reports to cameras. Cassie slipped out a side entrance under security escort, avoiding the public eye after her intense day on the stand. Both departures were low key, reflecting the seriousness of the day's testimony. What's next? Looking ahead to day 3. As day 2 concluded, the trial of Sean Diddy Combs had clearly hit a dramatic crescendo with Cassie's Ventura's testimony. The prosecution considers their star witness and her detailed day long account undoubtedly made an impact. Come day 3, the spotlight will remain on Cassie as the defense gets its turn to question her. Combs' lawyers have signaled their strategy. They will likely highlight any evidence of Ventura's consent or participation and bring up the prior incidents like the bar fight to challenge her credibility and suggest she may have ulterior motives, perhaps pointing out her recent civil settlement with Combs or her continued ties to his money and fame. They also may underscore that Ventura remained in the relationship for years, implying it was not captivity but choice, an argument they already hinted at in openings, asserting that the women around Combs benefited from his lifestyle. From the prosecution's perspective, Ventura's testimony reinforced uh, key elements of the federal charges: sex trafficking by allegedly forcing or coercing her into sexual activities with others, often across state lines, transportation for prostitution, and even the racketeering conspiracy by painting Combs as orchestrating a whole enterprise of illicit conduct. They will aim to redirect her if needed after cross examination to shore up any points the defense tries to undermine. Outside court, the public and press will be closely watching for any response from Combs' camp about the Cassie's allegations. Thus far, Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges, and his attorneys maintain that the relationships and sexual activities in question were consensual and private, not crimes. In fact, the defense's narrative is that Combs' lifestyle may be unconventional. They describe him as a swinger with kinky preferences, but not criminal. Day 3's cross examination of Ventura will be critical in advancing that narrative. How Cassie holds up under what could be an aggressive grilling will likely shape the jurors' perceptions, given the emotional weight of her testimony. The defense walks a fine line. Too combative across could risk alienating jurors who sympathize with her, but they must try to expose any inconsistencies and doubts. The trial, being presided over by Judge Subramanian in a Manhattan federal court, is expected to last several more weeks. Day 2 provided a pivotal moment, a firsthand account of the alleged crimes that will be hard for jurors to forget. As the case progresses, other alleged victims are slated to testify, most under pseudonyms for privacy, and additional evidence, including those secret videos, will come to light. For now, the jurors have been instructed to avoid media coverage and not discuss the case among themselves. They will return in the morning to the same courtroom where Cassie Ventura will once again take her seat in the witness box, and the legal drama will resume. So there you have it, guys. Um, that is day that is day 2 in a nutshell. So what I'm going to do at the end of each and every day, we're going to talk about how did this day advance or not advance, in what ways the charges that the government needs to prove, and that's where we're kind of leave this thing at. So the first charge we're going to look at is the federal sex trafficking. and it's an element tracker. So element one that they have to prove: recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, or maintained the victim. So how was this proven today through Cassie's testimony, or through the testimony that was presented today? It was proven through Cassie's testimony that she was flown to Freakoffs across the country and internationally, locations that include LA and Ibiza. That included New York City, Miami, LA, and Ibiza. Um, Element number two: knew or was reckless in knowing the victim would engage in commercial acts. Testimony confirmed Diddy paid male escorts to perform with Cassie while he filmed and directed the Freakoffs. While he filmed and directed, the Freakoffs were arranged, compensated, and managed like sexual productions. Um, Element three: involved forced threats, fraud, or coercion to cause the commercial sex act. Cassie said she was pressured emotionally and physically. She was subjected to violence. She was threatened with punishment, isolated, and drugged during multi-day freak-offs. Element four: in fact, that gets two checks for us because she was she was it was done in multiple ways. Uh, Element four: victim could not consent due to psychological manipulation or substance abuse. This was proven with Cassie's testimony because she described fear based compliance, sleep deprivation, drug facilitation, ecstasy, Molly, mushrooms, and complete lack of agency. Quote, it became a job. Prosecution status for all the elements um, are supported by Ventura's testimony alone. Credibility permitting, this is a clean checklist hit for the government. So this is a big one because the government here with her testimony, as you know, when you look at the sex trafficking statute and the elements of the crime they have to prove, they if her testimony is believed, and remember, a lot of people don't understand this, you can convict someone based on testimony alone because that is considered evidence. And since she's testifying to her direct experience, it's direct evidence, and what she's saying happened meets, as we just talked about, meets the standard, the elements needed to prove sex trafficking. So there it is. Now, the next one that they have to prove is RICO. So, element one is a criminal enterprise existed. So, what did we learn today? Described inner circle of bodyguards, assistants, hired sex workers, and handlers who facilitated Diddy's alleged abuse network. So, she was able to describe that in her testimony. DJ Phillips described it. The first witness described that there were bodyguards around, that there were people working for Diddy, and that they participated in setting up the infrastructure that allowed Diddy to be able to operate in this way. Now, of course, this is the belief that it's got to have a commercial aspect to it. The defense is saying there's no commercial aspect to this at all. This was personal pleasure. This was a lifestyle. Two consenting adults were in, and he was able to make it elaborate with the use of people that work for him simply because he had the means to do so. But, anyways, let's move on to element two. The defendant participated in the operation or management of the enterprise. Cassie testified that Diddy orchestrated freak-offs. She enforced appearance rules. Her phones were confiscated and punished when she resisted. So, he was involved in that. She testified, yes, he was the one doing this. He was the one ordering these things to be done. Element three: enterprise engaged in a pattern of racketeering activity. Pattern shown through sexual coercion, forced drug use, physical violence, interstate transportation for sex, which is just moving her around, and bribery, the hotel incident, right, where he offered $100,000. So all of these things have already been in the first three witnesses. Element four: at least two predicate acts within the last 10 years. Day two alone included multiple acts of coerced sex trafficking, obstruction via intimidation and bribes, and drug distribution and violent assault. So those are all predicate acts to the RICO operation, which basically alleges that the operation is that he would provide drugs to Cassie and the sex workers and people for purposes of that. Now, this is where we have to get into the idea here of it's got to be commercial. So, what is the commercial aspect of this in the sense, where does he make money and how does he do it? And that's going to be the thing I think that is going to be something that the defense is attempting to exploit because all of those things can be true, But if this was just part of the lifestyle and she was consenting and there was no commercial gain from this, then you don't have RICO, you don't have sex trafficking, because it's not sex trafficking if you're in a relationship and this is just an elaborate world that he's creating, a fantasy world. And that's what the defense is going to claim. And of course, what they're going to do, one of the key rulings is that bar fight shows that Cassie herself, especially when you are looking at that hotel incident where there was abuse, it says, hey, look, she was a wild, wild lady. She was a lady who was engaging in these things on her own, and that Diddy was not coercing her, but he was just meeting her insatiable demand for these things. And that's what the defense is going to claim. So, like I said, it's going to be a very, very interesting trial. Day two is already packed filled with these things. And of course, the jury has to believe and understand these things. That's a problem when the government puts together a complicated case like RICO and sex trafficking, because it's complicated, especially to understand how to apply what is alleged to have happened in this case. And that's where the defense can benefit. If the jury doesn't understand it, if the jury is not completely comfortable with it, then they can that's a basis for reasonable doubt. It's a basis for them to acquit Diddy. So with that said, guys, that is day two, wrapping it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Give me your comments on what you think about day two. Like I said, we don't have cameras in the courtroom, so I'm going to continue to bring this to you. This will go up when this video is done. I will have a community post, and go to the community post, and it will be a community members only post with the exclusive Google Drive link to the document I was just utilizing. And there's a section I didn't even get into. There's a chronology of the day that is you'll be able to, those of you who choose to become a member and have access to the actual hard copy of this document. It's something I put together. Um, you will get it, and a lot of work goes into it. So I hope you guys appreciate it. And that's where we stand. So, guys, with that said, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate everyone who tunes in every single day to all of my lives. I'm humbled by your support. Even if a live gets 100 views in a day, or a live gets 150,000, I don't care. I'm here doing this because I want to bring the justice system to you. I want to help you see it better. I want to utilize my experience that my dad gave to me, and I want to share that with you. And I want to do everything I can to try to highlight the justice process and reinforce the idea that that justice is more than an outcome. It is the process. It is the right to see. It's multi-pronged and multifaceted. And it's the idea that we see a fair, open, and transparent system operate that eventually does come to a verdict, and that verdict is then reviewed, and it's confirmed, it's affirmed, and if there's a conviction, there's a fair sentence served, and that is what we're looking for here. We're not looking for not guilty. We're not looking for a guilty. We're looking for a fair process, and that should be your assessment every single time, and it should be given to every single citizen of this country. Anyways, with that said, guys, I very much appreciate you guys. Hit the like button on this video, share this, help me get it out. It's very important stuff, because this is an exclusive shot into the courtroom, since there's no cameras, for you to see exactly what's going on day to day in the Diddy trial. Can't wait for day three, guys. I'll be back with it very soon, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Talk to you soon, and in the meantime, let justice prevail.
The system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice, let's shake the town. We're the voices that won't be ignored. Breaking chains, yeah, we're ready for war. With the power of the people, we'll make them see a world of justice, united and free. United and free. progress, we're taking it higher. Fighting through the struggle, igniting the fire. No more silence, we'll make the noise loud. Together in this battle, standing strong and proud. Injustice fades when courage aligns. Rise up together, break the confines. We're the voices that